And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? You are tuning in to the Bandits podcast right now. I know it sounds weird to hear me doing the intro, but you got me today. And as always, you know, I am Zach, and we are here with the one and only Mr. Yurika. How are you doing, sir?
Always good, my friend. Always good, and always good to talk some football. We have real football X's and O's to go over. How was your first week of the USFL?
Yeah. It was a first week of USFL. That's what it was.
Ooh, okay.
It was really good. The football, I was impressed with the level of football that was played to an extent. The organization itself seems to just be a cluster F out of all from all get out. It's insane.
What was the we have a lot to go into that we liked. So what was the snafu? It sounds like you have a specific thing that you would like to talk about.
Well, I mean, you and I had spoken about it when the games were going on, but they all got pushed back, and then they got canceled, and then they got rescheduled, and on social media they were posting stuff. The Tampa Bay Bandits, our own Facebook page, was saying how good of a win we had when we hadn't played yet. We were posted up as the Generals, if I'm not mistaken. So it was just, they need more people. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the hardworking people that we actually deal with at the league, and they're really working hard, but they maybe need to hire a couple more interns, right? So I hope they do that. However, let's talk about the just overall feeling about the football. You did say you thought it was okay. What were some of the good and bad?
Yeah, I mean, the football itself, it felt like a majority of the games were all competitive. I didn't see anyone that looked like, well, they really shouldn't be out there, which was different to, say, the AAF, where some of those guys were, you know, watching them, it was like, I mean, I feel like I'm watching almost high school football. It felt energized. It felt exciting. And the way they broadcasted the game was interesting. And I enjoyed it thoroughly.
100%. I agree with you on the presentation. Was huge. It was, look, in this sort of league, we already know this is not the NFL. And I think as a casual fan, if you're going to present this to me, and I don't care, because I'm not, like, it's not a college. Like, I didn't go to the Maulers or the Bandits or whatever, you know. It's you have to get me entertained. And I think we just having all the drones and having all of the production that they did, I think was a benefit and an awesome lesson that they've learned from doing this with the XFL broadcasts and with the AAF. And so through a few spring leagues that haven't really got off the ground, I think they had a good first week in terms of a TV product. Hopefully the weather will be a lot more accommodating in Birmingham as we move forward. But we do have a football game to talk about. Eventually they did play. It took Monday Night Football, and your Bandits are the first ever USFL team to win a Monday Night Football game. So, you know, clap and cheer for us. Go Bandits. We figured them out. We are undefeated in Monday Night Football games in the USFL. But the Bandits did defeat the Pittsburgh Maulers eventually by the score of 17-3. And what I would like to do is let's just separate this into defense and offense. We don't have to go chronologically blow by blow. There was not a lot of scoring as the last game of the weekend. Some of the games were shootouts. This one was not. A little bit of a mixed bag, but let's talk about the defense first, because I know that was what you were keying in on. This is the people that I think you were most excited to review in our month-long review that we've done on every single Bandit player. What were your overall thoughts on the first look of the Tampa Bay Bandits defense?
Yeah, they. I mean, there's no two ways about it. In my opinion, they won us the game. Granted, we did obviously score more than them, but our offense was not looking very good. especially not in the second half. We came out hot, but and I know we're talking about defense right now, so I'll jump back into that.
Yeah.
But we didn't get a lot of sacks. Obviously, I think we had 2 sacks or 3 sacks the whole game. So it wasn't anything crazy like turnover wise or big play wise. But the one thing I enjoyed watching is every single person. It seemed that they were just running to the ball. Like you didn't see very many solo tackles. At least it didn't feel like you did. And then just the stout run defense was amazing.
100%. I know we had been saying these guys are going to be hungry and they're going to bully people and it's aggressive, and we were absolutely right. We were not. I don't think we were disappointed at all from the rip, man. We shut down the first 2 drives, and Pittsburgh didn't even throw the ball until literally the last play of the first quarter, and. I mean, man, I think I just want to go down. There's a heroes list here because we had great defensive line pressure at the line of scrimmage. And if you talk about guys like Christian Sam plugging holes, Greg Reeves and Howard just living in the backfield. I mean, they just gave up absolutely nothing on the ground. If you talk about the ground game of Pittsburgh Maulers, 32 attempts for 89 yards. That's a 2.8 yard average. And considering it was basically all of their offense was on the ground, they did not do very well. What did you see out of the rushing attack or the defense against the rush that stood out to you?
Yeah. I think that our interior defensive line and the fact that we had Christian Sam running all over the place, like he was making plays. It felt like he was one of the guys they were calling his name all night, and I think he ended up with only 5 tackles, but it felt like he was always at the point of contact, whether he was making the tackle or not. He was still hitting somebody, which was something that we had talked about obviously on the show previously about how he haunted my nightmares when he played in the Pac-12. So it was just something that brought back those memories, but in a good way this time. So, and yeah, I'd like to touch on it. I mean, with how good our run defense is, I think that it showed how good our pass defense is too. The fact that they had a streak of, I think it was like 12 straight rushing attempts or something like that in the middle of the game, and it was just like, how? Like, why are you still trying to do this?
Well, that goes into a little bit of this. They had a little bit of success on the run. With a lot of times, what we were doing is we were blitzing because we're very aggressive, and the play calling was very aggressive. And especially once they smelled the blood in the water, it was like, oh, let's go. And I think these guys really fed off of that energy the entire game. However, Pittsburgh did have some success pulling guards to offset the blitz, and when they were right, when they basically had the blitz figured out a few times, they were able to get a little bit. But we're talking, look, the longest run in this entire game for the Maulers was 12 yards. So it isn't like they had big play offense or they broke a really good downfield run or anything. But when we weren't shutting them down, especially on 4th downs and making them turn the ball over, they were just getting very, very, very few runs. And their offense was just, it was horrible. I mean, it really was. And so the Pittsburgh passing attack, I'm using that in quotation marks, the Pittsburgh passing attack, I mean, they were horrible. Look, let's just go right to the numbers. Not that I'm going to read a bunch of numbers, but this is very important. The 2 quarterbacks that played, and this was also a big surprise to us because we were like, Kyle Lauletta, this is the guy. This is who we focused on. We did not even bring up Love at all. Well, Love went 9 of 16, which is 56%, which is very, very bad. Even he only had an 8-yard average on receptions, and he was the better of the 2 quarterbacks because Lauletta went 2 for 10 for 8 yards total. A horrible quarterback rating. Love was throwing ducks. Lauletta didn't even get the reps that we thought he was going to get. I didn't see an injury. I didn't see him on the injury report. I don't understand what they were doing other than they were rotating quarterbacks. Neither of them were doing anything of note, and they couldn't run. So, I mean, it was just, you can't have a passing attack if you have bad quarterback play, and we just completely shut down their run and made them one-dimensional, but they didn't even have one dimension in this game. And I think that's important to talk about.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it right on the head, and that's why I kind of brought it up a little bit earlier when I said, like, we held them to, what was it, 2.8 yards a carry or something, close enough to that. Yeah, so it's like, you would think if a team is holding you to 2.8 yards a carry, you're going to try and throw the ball. But what they have, 36 attempts or 37 attempts total passing with 10 completions, 11 completions. That's, you can't survive in any sport with one dimension, and you definitely can't survive with no dimensions. So I don't understand how they have, like, what happened there or why they decided to run a 2-quarterback system, which not to get into other teams too much, but I did notice a lot of teams did that this week or last week. But this one surprised me with seeing especially Lauletta do so poorly.
Well, I think it goes into, again, one of the knocks on the USFL is they really tried to get these teams together very quickly, and I think it's going to shake out. There's going to be some shakeout. Now, we, of course, are firmly entrenched with our quarterback, and we'll get to the offense in just a couple minutes. But I don't know. I didn't know why Lauletta, unless he's just been unimpressive in their training camp. But I don't see why. I mean, he didn't start the game. Love started the game.
Yeah,
exactly. I just don't. I completely don't get it. But we haven't talked about this yet. But Kirby Wilson definitely made himself. He's the head coach of Pittsburgh. God. Made himself very famous this weekend. So maybe there's some decision making that's, I mean, it just doesn't seem like he's got a firm grip on that team from everything that's being put out. And then when you see the decision making that's happening inside the games, and when you see the decision making and the adjustments that are made during the game, it was not a good weekend for the Kirby Wilson head coaching experience.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And, like, I don't think that we are I don't think we're the only people that were surprised to see Lauletta not, let alone not be the starter, but not succeed. Because even in, like, if you guys were watching the game, if you guys listening were watching the game, they were throwing up commercials like, "Oh, week 2, Kyle Lauletta leads the Pittsburgh Maulers," and I'm like, well, he threw the ball 11 times and wasn't the starter. So are we sure he's leading the Pittsburgh Maulers? I don't think so. So it's just, I feel like you and I have talked about it. Kirby Wilson, he's a character, and not in a good way. I don't know how successful he's going to be after just watching the little bit of off-season drama and the first game.
They're definitely going to have to make a lot of changes to pull up the nose on this. But that's enough about them. Let's talk about our. There's a couple other guys on defense that I want to point out, because this was definitely the strong suit of this team, and dare I say, one of the top defenses of week 1. And so we've talked about Christian Sam plugging holes. We talked about Reeves and Howard. Zach Daw also had a sack and 2 tackles for loss. Travis Feeney is a linebacker, a sack and 2 tackles for loss. Even Christian Campbell, who's a cornerback, was eating up the run with a tackle for loss. And my guy, my favorite play of the entire game was Antonio Reed coming from that safety position and just leveling a receiver with with a Steve Atwater. It's one of my favorite safeties of all time. And this dude just came in here. I mean, you might even call him like an Ed Reed. He's Antonio Reed, but here's an Ed Reed, like, just demolition. I love my safeties to be hard hitting, run stopping guys, and that was my favorite play of the week. But was there? I've just been listing names though. Who were some of the other guys? We talked about Sam a little bit. Who were some of the other guys you thought had standout defensive solo performances?
Yeah, so we talked about Sam. Obviously, you brought up Beal a little bit. He came out with a total of 7 tackles. But a big guy for me, and another guy that I think you were at some point, was Quentin Meeks. He led the team in tackles with eight solo tackles, or 8 total tackles. 5 of those were solo at the corner position. That's it's pretty rare, especially in professional football, that you see a corner lead the team in tackles. So just those, that was one of the guys that really impressed me. And then, yeah, I mean, to see again another corner come in and just perform behind the line of scrimmage is impressive to me.
Well, and you did bring up a really good point too. There weren't a ton of solo tackles. Out of the 59 tackles total, 37 of them were solo, so that's not quite half, or it's a little more than half. And so that's maybe why a corner's racking up a lot of these tackles, because you're not getting hit by one guy a lot of the time. If you do get hit by one guy, there's more contact coming within a split second. So they're swarming the ball. They were playing a very bad offense that was not firing on any cylinders, and they took care of the mission. Okay, they figured it out. They got it done, and they held a team to 3 points. They didn't. I think they're the only team that did not score a touchdown. The Pittsburgh Maulers did not score a touchdown. I believe they're the only team that did not do that this weekend.
And that is correct. We are leading the league in defensive. I don't want to say efficiency, but the points allowed. We are leading the league right now with 3. So they are the only team that didn't score a touchdown.
And look, I'm not crying that we didn't get to play a high-powered offense and just beat them down. Hey, look, if they were going to be one of the worst offenses in the league, well, guess what? We were just the first people that get to pick them off. So. Let's flip to the other side, though. I think there's a little bit of discussion to talk about our offense, which we had previewed and thought it was going to be high octane, high scoring, and it was, they were good and there was bad, and there's a lot to talk about. But what was your first glance? What did you see out of your Tampa Bay Bandits offense this week?
Yeah, so when I started watching the game, obviously in the first half, I would say first quarter really, I was like, oh, my prediction of winning this game with 17 points is way off. Like, we're about to blow them out of the water. But it just seemed that I don't know what happened or where we went wrong. We only had one active tight end, who, in my opinion, had the best game of the night, or the best player of the night, especially on offense. But it just felt like we slowed down, like took our foot off the gas for some reason, which was not what I was expecting. And I guess I just expected our run game to perform better, to where we would have been able to not necessarily have to rely on the pass game. But when you
go ahead.
Yeah, I was to say, when you have a running back who our whole team as a total at running back, or even rushing in general, we only had I want to say it was like 74 yards or something total, which is not great.
Yeah, for as much as we talked about the Maulers getting shut down, I mean our running attack was not, I don't think, was the focal point of our offense at all. And you're right. I mean, Emmons only had 40 yards total on the ground rushing. Washington, 17 yards, and 10 of those, or 11 of those came from one really, really good run in the first half, I believe. But I don't think the passing game was definitely the focus of this team. And there's some things to get in about Tamu, but yeah. I wish we did establish the run a little better. I think we were right. We said that Emmons would probably be the featured back, and Washington kind of be like the change of pace guy. They definitely gave 2/3 of the rushing attempts to Emmons. Washington just kept getting fed to the woodshed, other than the one run that he got. But and when they tried to do short yardage situations, there was a 4th down we tried to convert, we weren't able to do. There were a couple 3rd downs that we inevitably stalled out on the drive, and the rushing attack definitely needs to improve. But again, the passing is where I thought they were going to go. So with that, let's move to Jordan Ta'amu. I think that's the first thing that we should talk about when it comes to the passing. But at first glance, I mean, even the running game and passing game, the first couple drives that we had looked explosive. I mean, we were controlling the game. We were, utilizing the screen. We were utilizing Pittsburgh's aggressiveness against them. We were running it wherever we wanted to. So I thought coming out of the gate, it was good. The second half, though, was a lot of stalled drives. I mean, we did not score a point in the second half. All of our 17 points coming in the first half. So a mixed bag. What was the first thing you wanted to talk about Jordan Ta'amu in this performance?
The first big thing that I saw, it felt like he wasn't comfortable. Like you said, the first drive looked amazing. He looked like it looked like we were gonna blow this team out of the water. Like I legitimately thought we were gonna score 30 points at least after the first half or after the first quarter. And then it just felt like we slowed down, and it just every time I looked up to see Ta'amu have the ball, it felt like he was running out of the pocket. Which, I mean, granted, he is the type of quarterback that can do that, but not if we're having him do it every possession. So a big part of it for me was he just did not look comfortable behind the line.
Yeah, I think, man, if we get into the stat line here, Ta'amu was 20 of 32 for that's 62.5%. Not the greatest. It's kind of average if we're being honest, but only 185 yards, which was an average of about 5.8, a little less than 6. 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. We'll talk about those in a second, but I thought that it was not his most accurate game for sure. I think that he definitely was feeling some type of way, like you just talked about. He threw in a double coverage a few times. He did try to escape the pocket a little too much. I think he took some bad hits that were unnecessary. There was one in particular that kind of he had to take a breath, and it just it was well, and we're kind of freaking out because I'm like, Brady White is the backup here, and he's an even bigger unknown than Love and Lauletta. Okay, so we're sitting here going, it's the first half. I don't need our quote unquote star first draft pick that we picked going down because he wanted to run outside the tackles. But on the flip side, I think that he did settle down. He was in control eventually, and I think that the 2 interceptions, that's a big stat, but one of them wasn't his fault. He threw the ball. The receiver just didn't catch it with his hands. He was trying to bring it into his shoulder. It popped up. It was an interception. It was not Jordan Ta'amu's fault. The other interception, though, was definitely he was overthrowing guys a few times. He did absolutely throw a bad interception, but after that interception was able to steady the ship and close out the game. Even though they didn't score more points, they kind of bled the clock. They kept the ball in good field position even after punting to keep the Maulers away as they were still away from a 2-score game. So went into game manager mode in the second half and did okay. Didn't I think if he was a little bit more of that gunslinger and they throw another interception and we're just giving Pittsburgh more and more opportunities, we're going to play better teams that we definitely cannot do that. So it was good that they were able to shut down the kind of the bad plays and they were able to get it focused and inevitably come out with the win.
Yeah, and I think that's why, to me, like, game manager is exactly what I was thinking, because we're not used to seeing that side of Ta'amu. So to see him come out and play game manager, I think that it kind of, as bad as Pittsburgh was, and I don't want to be like, oh, they did something good, their defense kept them in the game.
Sure.
Like, it's not very often you see a team not score after halftime and still win a game. So Pittsburgh's defense did everything they could to keep them in that game. It was just how bad their offense was. And it just, like you said, the one interception wasn't really Teamu's fault. It was a little behind the receiver, but it wasn't. He got his hands on it. He should have caught it, except he used his body, which is, as a receiver, that's the number one thing you're not supposed to do. Don't use your body for a catch. Use your hands. So
that's correct.
I'm hoping to see a lot of improvement from this week going into next week when I think we're playing a much better team than Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Before we get out here, we did talk about Cheyenne O'Grady a little bit. 11 targets on the day, 8 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown coming on a fake screen. They utilized the screen early in the game, and then once Pittsburgh thought they had it figured out, they pulled the okie-doke and sent O'Grady on a beautiful wheel route that he was wide open for, and it was a phenomenal touchdown. So I think he did a wonderful job. I agree with you. I believe he was the offensive player of the game if we're doing that, and for being the only tight end on the roster at the time, I think that he did admirably as a wonderful receiving threat that we talked about on this show a few weeks ago. So, is there anything other things you want to talk about Cheyenne O'Grady specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I not to toot my own horn too much, but I mean, he was one of the guys that I did the review on, and that we had both spoke about, and this is exactly what I was expecting from him to be that big downfield threat, kind of like a more athletic version of, don't blow me up in here, guys, I promise. I don't think he's as good as this guy, but I'm just saying, a more athletic version of Gronk, in all honesty.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, obviously not as talented, but overall more athletic, in my opinion.
Okay, in the mold, I'll give you that. I won't. I'll pull you back from the ledge a little bit, but definitely in that like.
Thank you.
In that just just athletic playmaking, receiving. Although he's got a gigantic frame on him, just good hands. And if you got hands and speed, you're creating mismatches and getting it done. Was there any other of the receivers we had? I mean, man, we had a few receivers get some okay stats. Was there any other wide receivers you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I am confused as all get out as to what the hell a practice squad is, apparently, in the USFL, because we got the CJF3 play, which blew my mind.
Yeah.
But, I mean, realistically, there wasn't... I'm trying to think how to say it without being, like, negative. There wasn't really anyone else that stood out to me.
Okay.
We did see a few guys go, targeted 3 times, caught 3 passes. So we saw a few 100% catch rate, I'll call it, with like BJ Emmons and Vinny Papale.
He had a couple catches, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just no one else really stuck out crazy, but I will say that overall I wasn't upset with how our wide receivers were playing.
Yeah, the guy I was going to bring up is Jordan Lasley. I think Lasley did a great job as a reliable second option. He was the second or third most targeted guy on the day. 5 targets, 3 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. But he was the kind of the focal point on one particular drive. It was the kind of second to last drive of the first half, and that was the same. Washington was getting it done on the run, and then Lasley was wide open because of that on the next play, and they were able to get it down into the red zone, into the goal, and after trying to stuff it 2 times, first and goal, second and goal, they were able to pull the ball back and throw it to Lasley, which catching in the red zone is a very, very difficult thing. A lot of NFL teams just cannot get it done in the red zone passing-wise. But Lasley, he hauled in a good catch earlier in that drive to keep the drive alive, and then ultimately got the 6. So I'm hoping that another couple people, and maybe there's a little bit of injuries that are going along with that too. Well, and literally our number 1 wide receiver that we drafted just didn't show up to camp. so they're still figuring things out in the wide receiver room. But I liked Lasley as a kind of another person to point out.
Yeah, Lasley was impressive. He was the second most targeted guy with 5 targets, and then it was Davis right behind him. But yeah, I mean, overall it was solid. But like I said, the only one that really stood out was O'Grady, to me anyway. But to me, I'm a numbers guy. I like to see that 86 yards or that 8 catches. But 3 out of 5 is not a bad. It's 60% completions. So I'm not mad about that either.
Yeah, for sure, impact player. Who, if you had to pick a defensive player of the game, who would your defensive player of the game be?
I'm gonna go Quentin Meeks.
Quentin Meeks, okay.
I'm gonna go Meeks just based off of him being, again, leading the team in tackles with 8 tackles, him being everywhere with it not being with there not being any turnovers. I guess I just revert right into who had the biggest impact as far as who stopped the most people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big. I thought Travis Feeney did a great job getting. He just disrupted the line of scrimmage. He disrupted the run. He was running around. He got a sack even. He would be my guy. Just creating havoc, getting it done, and wrecking shops. So,
Love it.
But that pretty much wraps up week 1, man. We did it. We went through week 1, and I would say. The one thing that I love doing is I was sitting on my couch and I had my barely legal football shirt on that I got at shop.rblrsports.com. It is in the colors of our Bandits, and I was able to look good, feel good, and watch the game in style. And that's shop.rblrsports.com. It's a wonderful store where we've got tons of designs that celebrate all of the Tampa Bay teams in the colors of the hockey and soccer and football, both football teams, and in the Rays too. I mean, and we're even putting out even more shirts. There was 3 new designs that we introduced that are honoring our hockey team here in Tampa Bay. So I believe there's a promo code, if I could pull it up here, but what would be the promo code that someone could use if they wanted to maybe save 10% on a Bandit shirt?
Yeah, I mean, so while you're pulling it up, I think that it would be like something like Bandit Ball.
That's a good one. I like that.
I feel like that fits perfect. So yeah, if you guys go on there and put in the promo code Bandit Ball, like Yurika said, you'll get 10% off of all the shirts you want. Go ahead and buy them all. Why not? Why not? 10% off. The more you buy, the more you save. It's just how math works.
I love it, man. Well, let's get into. We have a second preview to talk about. Last week we got you ready. We previewed the game. They came out with the dub. Now they're looking for win number 2, as they are. Zach, are you ready for the Bay Breaker Brawl?
I'm trying to be.
Week 2 is against the New Orleans Breakers. It will hopefully be at 3 p.m. is when they have it scheduled, 3 p.m. on April 24th.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It is scheduled to be on NBC and Peacock. So I think this is one of the games, if you have the Peacock service, you can watch it or throw it on their little DVR or watch it as a replay down the road. Tampa Bay Bandits are a 2.5-point favorite. Which is kind of surprising that if you we'll get into New Orleans here, they're a pretty good team. Their head coach is Larry Fedora, and among his resume, he's a former assistant at Florida. So if you're a Gators fan, you've probably heard the name Larry Fedora. He became the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, so I'm sure he went out west a couple times for you, Zach. Then he became the head coach at Southern Miss and North Carolina. Then, Southern Miss, pretty good football program. North Carolina, not as well known.
Good basketball program.
Great basketball program. But then he became an OC at Baylor. Little back to kind of that Midwestern Southern. They're in the, I believe they're still Big 12. And then then now he's the head coach of the New Orleans Breakers. What do you know about Larry Fedora, if anything, or is there anything you've come across in your research?
So I haven't done very much research into Larry Fedora, but I do know he's got a badass name. So if that says anything, if that says anything, we're in for some trouble.
Oh no. My cursory Googling skills have brought up that he's known as a great motivator, and he likes to spread the ball around. In his ideal world, he'd like to use a lot of one running back, one tight end, 3 wide sets as his base. Up-tempo offense. He likes to keep the defense off rhythm and spread the field, creating vertical seams. So we've even seen him use the RPO in some of his stints at the college level, and he's gone on record saying he likes to keep his offense simple, which I love. And I mean, I guess at this level, sure, if you keep it simple for some college guys, one of the knocks on a bunch of these quarterbacks is going to be, their ability to read and react to a defense. So if you can kind of keep that simple, you keep everyone, you got 1 or 2 options. As a Bandits fan, though, I like it because if you stop the one thing that they're good at on that play, they're not going to have a lot of plan B, plan C, and you're going to see maybe what you saw against Pittsburgh. But let's talk about, we got into our offense and what they did. Let's kind of game plan what you think what the New Orleans defense is going to have their hands on as they play our Bandits offense.
Yeah, we're gonna have to run the ball better against this team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This team had 6 sacks total, and Bellamy, their D end, had 3 of those by himself. So we're not going to be able to stand back and throw the ball as our only option like it was last week. It's just not going to happen. So my thoughts on it are if it goes the way I'm picturing it, we're going to see a lot more. I don't want to say a lot more production, but I think we're going to see a lot more effort to run the ball, maybe get some different looks in there, because with how beat up Teamu got this week, it's going to be worse when we play New Orleans if it's the same outcome.
Yeah, talking about on the ground, they really control the middle, at the line of scrimmage in between the tackles. They absolutely. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who they beat last week. New Orleans beat. I wish I had this right up the top here, but I believe they played Birmingham, but I might be wrong on that. No, Philadelphia. Sorry.
Philly. Yeah.
They played Philadelphia. Yeah. So Philadelphia didn't have their offense looked really bad. I mean, to be honest, Philadelphia actually plays Pittsburgh in week 2, and it's going to be probably the least. Either both teams are finally going to score 40 points because they're not very good, or it's going to be like 10-6 or something, and because nobody can even do anything on offense. Because what I saw from New Orleans is that they have 2 guys up front, Henri Saint-Amour out of Georgia Tech and Connor Christian out of Jacksonville State. These dudes really, really caused a lot of havoc from Philadelphia trying to run it up the middle. We're definitely going to have to be way better in that. But they did give up runs on the outside. What was good is they really did have a good interior defense. The front 7 did a good job. But whenever you tried to space out the field on a toss play or a counter play, or you're pulling guards and you're moving everyone to the left or right, they gave up a thing. Now, also Washington, he's one of their cornerbacks, number 28, in run coverage. Keyed in when he thought it was a run, but then they released the running back as an option, and so it seemed like they were aggressively keyed into whatever their first read was. So if they, that's why they were so good, is they were like, they're going to run the ball, and then they guessed right, and they just demolished the running play. So if they can establish the run, we're going to see, I think, the screens that we tried to run this week. We're going to see play action maybe creep its head around and open things up vertically down the field. But that really is going to be a battle at the line of scrimmage. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I say we might see a change of pace as far as, BJ Emmons might not be the guy next week. I could see Washington getting that shot with us. I'm assuming, and again, we still only have a week to look at, but it feels like It feels like to play this team, we're going to have to run outside. We're not going to be able to be successful just running it up the middle. So I could see Washington getting more of a chance to take the ball outside as opposed to Emmons just hammering it down the middle against New Orleans.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Emmons is going to get, I still think, the majority of the carries, but they're not going to be designed, like, unless he breaks a tackle, gets to the second level and beyond. It's going to be maybe a 3-yard per carry day or maybe a little bit more, but I think that you're running the ball with Emmons as a workhorse to control the clock. If you end up with a second and short, third and short, getting those couple extra things. But yeah, this is going to be a game for our Washington to get it done. So I think it'll be all right. Kind of looking at their shape, they do run more of a 4-3 from what I was figuring from their game film. And when you look at their defensive coordinator, it's John Tanusha, who just loves to bring pressure. He loves to disrupt the in the backfield to kill drives. It's blitzing all day. He likes to disguise those blitzes. And so that's why I think they're using the blitz to stuff the run. And if you can pop a screen, pop a toss, get to the outside, get away from those edge rushers, you can make a cornerback miss. You can maybe win a one-on-one battle against a safety that's coming in run support, and they'll be able to hopefully break some longer runs than we were able to do in week 1. What did you think the offense the passing attack of the Bandits is going to look like against New Orleans?
Yeah, so that's another thing that we're going to have to do better at. And I know that it sounds repetitive, but that's kind of the only way I can think to say it, because they have guys like Diggs and Fernandez in the middle, both at linebacker, who are Fernandez had 12 tackles, 8 solo, 4 assists. Diggs had 10, 7 solo, 3 assists. So it's one of those things where we're not going to be able to just throw it up and pray, it feels like. They did have one of their cornerbacks, I can't remember who it was, had an interception. So it's just something that we're going to have to – Teamu's going to have to step it up for our passing attack. I obviously think O'Grady's going to be a big part of it. Someone's going to have to break out, is I guess what I'm saying. We're going to have another breakout that's not just O'Grady.
Yeah, well, I love it. You talked about Diggs coming up with a big INT. He had a pick 6, was the first touchdown they ever scored in the history of their franchise. Was a pick 6 INT, but the quarterback for Philadelphia he just stared down the receiver. It was a super easy pick, and they were able to take it to the house. Davin Bellamy was the guy I wanted to really bring up. This dude is a really good pass rusher.
A monster.
I think that he set himself apart as a star for week 1. I think that he had the stats to prove it, but he had a big personality. They mic'd him up. He's one of the 72 dudes on the field with a microphone, and they definitely captured a big personality. But he's a dude. Well, and I think they picked the right guy, because he's a dude with a lot of practice squad experience, undrafted, but he's played in Houston, Cincinnati, Tennessee, San Francisco, and with the Chargers as far as last year. And he brought the pain. All my notes, my whole notebook is just 56, good tackle, 56, good pressure, 56, getting past the tackles. Like Bellamy was my standout performer. He just really, really, really. He's in my nightmares, I guess. If I'm a lineman against this.
No, you're 100% right, and that's why I brought him up first, talking about defense. Because don't get me wrong, the 12 tackles is amazing, but the 3 sacks are what speak to me the most.
Yeah. Well, and he's creating havoc, and now you kind of have to. He's got gravity now. You have to game plan. You have to know where 56 is at all times. And I would say, if I wanted to flip to kind of what I think we're going to do, I think passing is still going to be the number 1 tool that we're going to utilize against this defense. And so the linemen are going to have to earn their paycheck. We're going to have to see how the running backs do in blocking situations, because getting the ball down the field is something I 100% believe that the Bandits can do. I did not see a lot in their coverage. Philly's offense sucked, dude. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that Philadelphia just could not put two and two together. They scored a little bit, but in terms of like, if we were playing Philly, I think we would have also kept them to 10 or 13 points. Them playing us, so one of the few defects that I saw in New Orleans is that they're very aggressive. Okay, they are very, very aggressive. But if you can utilize that, which we, in my opinion, I think we did utilize Pittsburgh's blitzing and their aggressiveness against them, and they were able to open up vertical seams for Cheyenne O'Grady, and we were able to open up vertical seams for, I guess we really need to talk about this, that coming out of the backfield in the passing game, Emmons had 3 receptions for 23 yards. I think that, and he's not the quote-unquote speed guy, right? He's just kind of the check down option if he's in the game. And I think that he's going to have a big game catching the ball. I mean, Washington obviously is the name that we're going to look for. But I think Emmons has a shot that if they can run play action, if, you know, a couple guys are getting covered already, he's going to be an option to pick up, you know, 5 or 6 yards at a clip. But Bug Howard had a pretty good game, 3 catches and a touchdown, and I believe that Cheyenne O'Grady is going to have another ample opportunity to get some things, and I think we're going to be able to have a little bit more of a vertical passing threat if Teamu can shake off the rust or whatever it was, you know, first competitive game in a long time for a lot of these guys. And I think that if Jordan can keep the underthrows and overthrows to where he, I guess the term is regressing to the mean, right? I think he had a subpar performance in week 1, and I think that he can get back to the level that we all expect him to get. He's going to torch the there's an opportunity to torch the secondary of New Orleans. And so if we, I got a long-winded answer here, but if we can block Bellamy, we can keep guys upright, this offense has a chance to purr through the passing attack.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right, and that's why, like, I don't mind your long-winded answers because I agree with them every time, so I don't have to have a long-winded response back.
Oh, come on. Tell me I'm wrong, man. Come on.
No, well, in this situation, I don't think you are. I do think that it's going to – I was not impressed with their secondary. Their front 7, their linebackers, and their defensive linemen terrify me. So I do think that in order for us to win this game, our passing attack, that's why I said we're going to have another breakout player. It can't just be on O'Grady. It's going to have to be O'Grady having 80 yards and Lasley having 70. And, you know, we're going to have to, you know, Teamu's going to have more than 180 yards this game.
Well, what was good is that Philadelphia, for all their problems, they did have 4 different 18 or plus yard catches. They had 4 receivers with over 10 yards per catch on the game. So, like you said, if the D-line and the edge rushers do their job, it will be a long, long day for the Bandits. But if they can keep everyone upright, there's going to be opportunities down the field. So let's flip to the other side. Let's talk about our bad boys. Let's talk about our Bandits defense. I wanted to save the best for last. How do you feel about New Orleans' offense against our defense?
Well, we're going up against the number 1 rusher in the league right now. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. The number 1 running back in the league right now, because technically a quarterback, DeAndre, who is he? I'm blanking right now, but quarterback is leading the league in rushing yards right now with like 95. But Jordan Ellis is the league leading running back with rushing yards at 89. So I think that it bodes well for the defense that we were playing last week as far as Christian Sam being everywhere and us kind of stuffing up that line. Our front 7 is just huge. So I do think that they're going to be a run team. I mean, Kyle Slaughter, no passing touchdowns, threw for 150 yards, I believe, which is surprising that they're one of the other few teams that only ran with 1 quarterback. But, yeah, I'm picturing our defense shutting down Slaughter, and we're probably going to have more than 3 sacks. And I think that what we're going to have to worry about is Jordan Ellis.
Yeah, I believe that this is going to be a good test to see, do our linebackers have the ability to stay at home? Because I believe they're going to run a little bit more RPO. I believe that they're going to – Kyle Sloter is going to his check down is his legs a lot of times. I mean, he had 4 rushes for 30 yards. He had a 12-yard rush, and that turns a 3rd and 10 into a first down in that instance.
Yeah.
So he's very athletic. I know him from his time as a Denver Bronco, or at least on the practice squad, and he's like he's one of these guys that the fans love because he had a wonderful preseason. I mean, he's like a preseason all-pro. And never really got a chance to do it in real life. But and that's because he just, to be honest, no offense to Kyle, like I said, I love cheering for him when he was wearing orange and blue. But he's an athletic guy, but just doesn't have the NFL tools, man. And but at this level, he has that chance to show that. But the way that the offensive coordinator Neil Mazzone and Fedora like to run their offenses, keeping it simple with a spread outlook. That's kind of what Kyle Sloter, I think, can excel in if I was going to pick an offense for him. But he's not going to bomb the ball 80 yards, but he can nickel and dime you. I mean, even in this game, 150 yards, but that's on 27 total, but he completed 17 out of 27. So, he's not the most accurate guy in the world, but technically he was better than Tamu, but it's kind of a game manager that also can run the ball like really well. So think like a better Taysom Hill. I guess if you bump up his quarterbacking and ding him for his running back ability, but he's somewhere in there. He's somewhere in there. He's like that's kind of the guy I thought of as like these guys who running is 50% of their offense and the other half is like not quite a wildcat guy, but just a better – he can make a few different reads. But what is really good, though, is they were one of the teams that utilized the communication in the USFL. In the USFL, coaches can talk to you all play clock long. So Fedora's sitting there like, hey, check the safety. Hey, check this guy. Hey, look, this guy. He's in the ear till the very last second. So it's a thing that I think, if you've got a good offensive mind, if they have a good game plan and Sloter's able to execute it and we're able to and they're able to maybe use our aggressiveness against us, then it's gonna be a showdown. However, if we can stay at home, like I said, if we can utilize our blitzing in a good fashion without just sending the whole house and getting thrown over the top of it, this defense is going to eat, man. I really, really believe this Bandits defense is going to be able to wreak a lot of havoc against New Orleans' offense.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like, I know that I'm sounding super pessimistic, but I am very optimistic that we are going to win this game. I do think it's going to be a bit more of a shootout than the last game was. I don't think we're going to hold New Orleans to 3 points by any means, but I also don't think that they're going to have 2 guys that rush for over 50 yards, and I don't think they're going to have a guy that rushes for more than 80 yards, let alone 2 rushing touchdowns. I think if we get beat or if they are even going to be in line to beat us, Sloter, however you pronounce his name, is going to have to improve on his game, just like I was talking about our passing game. That's the only way I see them beating us is with their passing game.
Yeah, I'm not very excited about I'm excited on a defensive perspective to look at their rushing game because, I mean, they just didn't seem to control the line of scrimmage against Philadelphia. And guess what, guys? You've got a lot of big bad boys coming that are even better, I think, than Philadelphia's defense this week. So, I mean, they ended up with 100. Let's not take respect away from them. They had 171 rushing yards, but 30 of those were Kyle Sloter, so 141 yards from their running backs. Okay, let's give them credit where it's due. They had 2 touchdowns, but it was mostly goal line stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what they're able to do here. Zach, do you want to do score prediction now, or do you want to talk about maybe a first week power rankings?
I mean, it's up to you. I feel like now would be a good time to do the score prediction because
Okay.
it is right
Let's
after
do
we're
it.
talking about the game.
Well, let's
I
do
want
it,
to hear.
man.
I want to hear yours first.
Okay.
You got mine first last time.
Okay. All right. I see what you're getting into. Yeah. Well, you were right actually last week. You thought it was going to be a little more. I kind of joked with you, that they can go for 9 points, and no one has done that yet. No one has gone for the 3-point attempt.
No, not at all.
I mean, they're having a lot of problems with the 1-point attempt or the field goals in this league. But
speaking of, real quick,
Ooh,
not
go ahead.
to interrupt, we didn't talk about that yet. That was a little bit of news.
Right.
The issues they were having with the kicking ball, so they ended up switching to a more traditional style of football, we'll call it, where they switched out the ball with all the technology in it and are allowing kickers to have their own personal kickoff balls, and which is just what they do in the NFL. Kick balls are much different than a regular football, and now they have a normal football to kick, so we should see that improve over time as well. And I know that's kind of random, but we forgot to go over that in the beginning. So
no, you're good. I think the problem was that we didn't really have a lot of those issues. I mean, I know Rousa went 1 for 2, and he made the chip shot, but he missed the longer one. But I guess we're not going to put this on the graphic. But if there was a special teams player of the week, that would be our boy Brandon Wright, who just demolished a punt,
launched the balls, dude,
from the end zone, 76 yards. That man kicked the football very well, so good job. He place kicked the crap out of the ball, man. So good job for him. All right, so score prediction. I really think this is. I might be wrong about this, because it is early in the season, but I think they're going to put 35 points on the board. I think they're going to it's going to be lights out passing offense the whole way, and I think the final score will be 35-14. Bandits staying undefeated for 2 weeks in a row.
Oh my word!
With fire emojis right there.
Okay, so mine is not going to be that high scoring. I do have Tampa winning, but I'm going to go closer to the 27-24 range.
Okay, so very close. How do you think? What's the story? How do we get to 27-24?
We're gonna have Te'amu throw for 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
And Washington rush for 1.
Okay.
And then, unfortunately, I am going to say that Slaughter throws for a touchdown.
Okay.
And now I'm blanking on his name, but their running back is gonna have 2 touchdowns.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's. Do you think it's a nail biter to the very last minute, or does one team come out ahead of time and the other team kind of crawls back?
I think Tampa's going to come out to a 14-0 lead. I'm getting very specific right now. So if this goes through, guys,
asking
you got to follow and subscribe. That's the rules. If this happens, you got to follow and subscribe. So I think what's going to happen, Tampa's going to get out to a 14-0 lead. Then they're going to slow down, and then New Orleans is going to catch up, right?
Okay.
And then we're going to go back up to, we'll go 27-14, and then New Orleans is going to have a garbage time field goal and touchdown.
Okay. All right. See, the way that I saw this game happening, based on watching Philadelphia, watching Pittsburgh, and how they reacted, I think that it's going to be pretty close. I think the first half it's probably going to be maybe 14-14 or something like that, and then that's when the adjustments. That's when they figured out what to do. We didn't score points in our second half, but it was really. I believe we will now, with another week of practice, now with another thing, and with this very specific weakness of New Orleans, I believe it's going to be a lights out second half for the passing offense. So I think it's going to be really tight for the first couple quarters, and then we're just going to turn on the jets, and that's where we're going to do the majority of our scoring. And then now that we've gone out to a big lead, now they're one dimensional. They've got to throw to keep it, and now they're just kind of sitting ducks. And that's how I see it, envisioning. So we're getting very, very granular on our predictions. So,
yeah, well, we
won't do that every week. We won't do that every week.
we got to start having a score for the predictions. Whoever gets closer gets a point.
All right. The way we do it on the RBLR Rowdies podcast, which if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you should definitely listen to, is we do If you get the win or loss right, you get like a point, and then like if you get the score right, we'll figure something out with football. But if you like how close you are with the score, you get like an extra point or something like that. So, and if you get it dead on, you get 3 points. So we'll figure it out.
Okay, I dig
we'll
it.
talk offline.
I dig it.
The last thing that I would want to say is let's look around the league after 1 week, after one whole week of football. What is the power rankings? The one that I'll pull up here is from Fox Sports. I think it's a good one to utilize for the first week here. We'll figure this out as we go along. But from the bottom, number 8, Pittsburgh Maulers. I think there's no doubt about that. I think that we both agree on that, and I'm going to move right along. Number 7 was the Michigan Panthers, which was impressive because Shea Patterson, the number 1 pick of the entire USFL, him and good old Paxton Lynch had to throw him in
number 1 pick in the NFL.
Had to get him in here. He's the number 1 meme in the NFL. They just could not hold the ball, and they are in 7th. Do you agree with Michigan being number 7 out of 8?
Yeah, when you have 2 quarterbacks that come in and they both are turnover prone, it appears. Paxton Lynch had 2 fumbles and an interception. Like his fumbles matched his number of completions. So, like let's just think this through. You can't. I don't foresee them being much better if that's how their quarterbacks are going to play.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. Jeff Fisher will figure something out, even if they got to go get a third dude off the scrap heap somewhere, they'll figure it out. Maybe not Shea Patterson, maybe not Paxton Lynch, but they got a pretty good running attack, so they'll be all right. Number 6 is the Philadelphia Stars. I agree. I think that Philadelphia, if not for Michigan's big turnovers, Philadelphia would be number 7 on this list. I was not impressed at all. I thought that Brian Scott just did not have a good game for all of the. This was one of the big to get. Ooh, Bart Andrews and Brian Scott. They're really good together and they know each other. I thought that Philly was bad on both sides of the ball, and can't wait for that Philadelphia-Pittsburgh matchup this week.
Yeah, and I mean the one bright spot for them is, like you said, Bart Andrus and Brian Scott. This is their first loss as a duo, and he's still, 25 for 36 with 202 yards. He's technically still leading the league in passing yards. So this is a team that I think is I'm comfortable having them at 6 right now, but I do think that they're going to be one of the better teams that lost this week.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I definitely think Philadelphia is going to wipe the floor with Pittsburgh, but could be high scoring. It could be 10-6. Who knows? Number 5,
yeah, exactly.
Rounding out the bottom half of the league is the Birmingham Stallions, who actually did win this week. Fox Sports put them at 5. What did you think about Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham they did not look good in their game. That was one of the other games that I watched. And if it wasn't for Jamar Smith just having a hell of a fourth quarter, they shouldn't have won that game. So I'm guessing, I didn't look at 4 yet, but I'm guessing that number 4 is a team who lost to them because they far outplayed them in that game.
Well, I agree with what you said about Birmingham. I'm okay with them at 5. Houston is actually number 4, and that's who the Bandits play in week 3. Houston, who won this week, they have another really good defense, and now they start the top half here at number 4. They were the team that created all those turnovers against the Michigan Panthers. So maybe a little highly rated, only because the Gamblers, the Panthers just like really wanted to put the ball in the other team's hands. But you got to give credit where credit's due. They created those turnovers, and here they are at number 4.
I don't think they should be 4. I think they should be 3.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm disagreeing with Fox Sports a little bit.
Okay.
If you're gonna put a team that's 1-0 at 5. You can't have 2 1-0 teams below a team that's 0-1 after the first week, in my opinion. So if you're gonna put like I agree with Birmingham being at 5, but I think that the Generals should be at 4. With granted, they did deserve to win that game, they didn't. So
No.
as kind of simple as that answer is, I don't think it's fair to Houston to be at 4 with a team like the Generals who are 0-1 to be at 3.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that they're definitely going to be better in the future. But Houston also, you can make that argument that like their offense was the bane of their game. Houston just could not get anything going on offense, and if it wasn't for all those turnovers, they wouldn't have won that game. New Jersey, on the flip side, they're doing some weird things. They got Luis Perez, who they just picked up after Ben Holmes got hurt. And that he was their number 1 pick, so they're retooling their quarterback room from scratch on week 1. And DeAndre Johnson again just lights out, but on the ground, And Luis Perez showing that he's got some skill. Eventually, he's been another one of these spring league heroes for in the XFL now, and the AAF, I believe too. So we'll see what happens with them if they get there. Now 3, I completely agree. I would have them lower than 3. Number two is of course the team that the Bandits are playing this week, and that is the New Orleans Breakers. And I think this is on the heels of that dominant defensive and special teams performance. They blocked a punt. They had a pick 6. They scored some points without having to have the offense on the field. I hope that that's a complete different story as they play us. But how do you feel about Breakers at 2, which means the Tampa Bay Bandits are number 1? What say you?
I again completely. I agree with this completely 100%. The only thing I would change is 5 and 6, or 4 and 6, or 4 and 5. Sorry, 4 and 5 would be the only ones I would change. I think that New Orleans and Tampa are the 2 best teams in this league, and I think that is kind of how it was projected to be from the beginning. So I think that those projections were accurate, and I think that this week is really going to determine who the true best team in the league is. And I think that they nailed it on these with the made up rivalry games. It just kind of worked out perfect.
We didn't really get into any of that. The last thing I'll bring up, oh my God, we'll see if it turns into a pretty good rivalry here. But a little bit of injury report to talk about. It's football. We're gonna have a bunch of guys banged up. The only guys that I think Dalen Mack did not practice as we are recording here on Thursday, and Christian Sam did not practice because of a hip. However, we will not know as we record on Thursday night here. We will not know until midnight or 3 in the morning what the practice report was from today's practice, which I think is ridiculous. Again, one of the quirks of the United States Football League. So we'll see. I don't know if Christian Sam is going to be out for this game. I doubt it.
I hope
we had some guys limited. DeQuan Hampton was limited, but he did practice. Austrian Robinson got poked in the eye, but he had a full practice. Keith Mumphrey had a full practice, and Fred Lawina kind of banged up his foot as well. We're definitely going to need him on the field if we have a chance to shut down that front 7.
Do you know how? Because he played in the first game, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how upset I was because when I tuned in, he got called for a penalty, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Finally, I get to watch an Oregon State guy play professional football, and he gets called for a damn penalty. Like, what is happening?
He pointed right into the drone and said, "That one's for you."
Yep. Yeah, he says, "For you, Zach." I love you, man. Zach. With his RBLR shirt on.
Well, with all that saying, I got the Blaine boys in your background. I got my little baby screaming in the background here. So I think it's time to wrap this up. Listeners, you have listened this far. You got my baby right here cheering for you. And what my little baby wants you to do is go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you use social media. We are at RBLR Sports. hit that like. We are almost at 500 followers on Twitter, and our at RBLR Bandits account is slowly trekking towards 100, and we cannot thank you enough for doing that. Also, you, the MVP here, wherever you're listening to this, if you're on Google Play, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on the iHeartRadio app, wherever you are listening to us right now, there's a like button, there's a follow button, there's a subscribe button. Whatever it is, hit that bad boy, turn on your notifications so that every time an RBLR episode it drops, you will get it first and foremost. So my long-winded diatribe is over for this week. I'm excited, baby. USFL football is real. We watched it, we experienced it, and now we get to see what it grows into. But Zach, you, sir, I saved the best for last. You get the last word of the day. Send us home, and let's ride, Bandits.
Hey, it's rivalry week, baby. Let's ride.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.